Welcome back, guys. I want to talk a bit about something that I have said in a lot of videos. And I've actually been asked this question more than once, but I got asked it just this last week. And it's about pay differences between what I do and over the road. And I'm going to throw the link in the description again. Probably my most popular video that I have done to this point is still the How Does Leasing Work, where I go over a full settlement. And I went back and I checked how I ran that week. It was a week that I worked 6 days, actually 5.5-ish days. My total revenue was around $3,100-ish, give or take, for that week. And just to kind of explain the differences between what I do and how it is different from running over the road. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of refer back to, and I don't have the settlement sheet, so I apologize there, but I can kind of give you an estimate of what I did. I think I mentioned it about a month and a half ago. I ran a week of over the road because they shut down the facility that I do dedicated out of once a year for cleaning and maintenance. So I'm going to talk a little bit about $3,100 in dedicated revenue, which is an average week. It's an okay week. It's not a great week. It's not a bad week. If I recall, I made $1,400-ish before taxes that week. That, again, that does not include taxes, which I take 30% out. That does not include health insurance. I don't have health insurance through Prime or through whatever. That is just revenue from the truck versus expenses for the truck. If you have things beyond that, that's your own deal. I don't put those in my business. I have insurance through my wife, so I don't include that. You would have to take your health insurance cut out of that $1,400. You're going to have to take your taxes out of that $1,400. But real quick, just a refresher, I worked 5.5-ish days. I took a Wednesday evening off of that week. And again, for Prime, payroll goes from 4 p.m. Central Time Tuesday to 4 p.m. Central Time the following Tuesday. So I would have worked Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, took Wednesday night, Wednesday morning off, kind of a half day there, and then done something Thursday, Friday. I don't recall specifically if it was a Saturday or Sunday, but I did work one day of the weekend, and then I worked Monday and Tuesday, and I had 6 loads, and the revenue from those loads was, if you recall in the video, anywhere from around $300 for a load to around $1,000, $1,100 for a lengthier load. Going to Northeast Pennsylvania. It's actually somewhere that I just delivered today to Northeast Pennsylvania. But the big difference between what I do and over the road is that I have 6 trips, 6 loads, 1 load per day, and that Northeast Pennsylvania that pays $1,130, $1,140, $1,150, and it depends. And part of the reason it depends on the fuel surcharge. Those don't happen all the time. You don't get those. The majority of the loads that I do will pay roughly $300 to $500. The smaller loads, the $300-ish loads, you can sometimes do 2 of those in one day. There are some even smaller than that pay $250-ish. So you can make about $500 in a given day. There are Sundays you can get some of the higher paying loads. You saw London, Kentucky load was on that check, that settlement sheet that is in there. The Northeast Pennsylvania. Loads that pay $700, $1,100. But the bottom line is, what I do is typically 1 or 2 loads per day. And at the end of the week, what I do is I have totaled up the amount of revenue that I have generated. And that to me is how much, and Guys do it differently. Some guys do it how much money have I made per mile. Other guys do it on total revenue. I'm a total revenue guy, and then I kind of factor in my fuel separately. But I'm a total revenue guy. So that was a $3,100 week on 6 loads. Majority of those loads were $300-$400 loads, with a couple bigger ones. One $700, one $1,100 load. And that's pretty typical. A typical week for me actually is usually more along the $400 load. As an example, I did, as I mentioned, an $1,100 Northeast Pennsylvania today. Tomorrow, I am going to Livonia, Michigan, a load that pays $381.54, just on full disclosure. There is a possibility of a second load that is a shorter load. But that could be the only thing that I do tomorrow. So that's how Dedicated works with what I do out of Decatur, Indiana, Bellevue, Ohio. If you're an over-the-road driver, and here's my example, the week that I did over the road, again, Decatur shut down. They have an annual maintenance and cleaning shutdown. Bellevue, I'm actually sitting in Bellevue right now. That Livonia load, I have to deliver that tomorrow at 7 a.m. They have a annual cleaning and maintenance shutdown as well. So the week that I went out over the road when Decatur was shut down, I had a load picking up in Morristown, Indiana, which is east of Indianapolis, and it delivered to Malden, South Carolina. That load paid, if I recall, a little less than $1,000. But the big difference is, okay, it's $1,000, great. But the $1,000 load that I did today, $1,100 load, was a one-day load. The $1,000 load that I did from east of Indianapolis to South Carolina was a 2-day load. When I unloaded in South Carolina, I had to drive to Savannah, Georgia for my next pickup. Now, you can start figuring out from Malden, South Carolina, it's the rest of the delivery day and then a little bit the next morning to get to Savannah, Georgia. And then I picked up the following day in Savannah. The load from Savannah, Georgia went to almost Minneapolis. It was close to Eau Claire, Wisconsin. That load paid over $2,000. So already you're looking at, okay, we're at that $3,100 in revenue. But that load picked up on a Wednesday morning and delivered Friday afternoon. So now you're at 3 days on a $2,000 load. So your revenue is the same. So you're getting pretty close to that. And I think it was. I want to say it was $900, 900 something for the South Carolina loads. Like I said, a little less than $1,000. And it was maybe $2,200, $2,300, maybe $2,400 for the load going to Wisconsin. So we're pretty comparable in the $3,100. But we're already at 5 days between pickup and delivery. That does not include any time spent at a tank wash waiting for a trailer to be dropped. Now, fortunately, Savannah, Georgia, Prime has a facility that's somewhat similar to Decatur. Not exactly the same, but it is a Prime-owned tank wash. And all you have to do is drop your trailer there and you have a preloaded trailer waiting for you. So I didn't have to sit and wait for a trailer to be cleaned. But I did have to sit and wait for a trailer to be cleaned in Morristown, Indiana. So you're at 5 days. Figure, throw a half day, 5.5 days, and you're still at that $3,100. You're also at additional miles. So your fuel cost is higher. So you're at 5.5 days, and you're hoping the end of the week comes along and that you can get another load in before the end of the week. Now, if you're in the middle of a load, Tuesday is going to come rolling around and you haven't delivered the next load. Well, you only have that $3,100 of payroll submitted. Say you have the next load, might be a great load, but it doesn't deliver until Wednesday. You're not going to get paid for that next load until the following week. This is one of the reasons you'll see a lot of guys want to get things delivered early, loads delivered early. But that's the basic difference. And you may get a great load, and this is where you'll find out the fluctuation from week to week. You may get another $2,000 load Friday after you deliver in Wisconsin. Now, one thing to note, when you deliver in Wisconsin, you're going to have to drive all the way back, deadhead all the way back to outside of Chicago probably for your next pickup. Maybe you'll get lucky and you'll head down to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Maybe you'll go to the Quad Cities area. But there's not a lot of places to reload. This is not like box truck. This is not like reefer. There aren't places to reload everywhere. You have to go to a facility where there is a tank wash and where there is the product that Prime hauls and has customers that you can reload. If things fall in place, you might get a reload very close and get another $2,000 load that loads and delivers on Tuesday. You might get something that doesn't pick up until Saturday or Sunday and doesn't deliver until Wednesday. And that's where you may have a week where you have $5,000 in revenue, and then the following week, because you delivered only one load, and then the next load doesn't deliver until Wednesday, you have a little bit lower week. You may only have $2,000 in revenue for that given week. So there's the difference between over the road and what I do with regional, dedicated. Smaller amounts of pay for what I do, shorter runs. I would probably say a little bit more consistency, but at the same time, you don't, like I said, I got the Northeast Pennsylvania, which is an $1,100 load. I don't get that all the time. And when I get that, I'm very happy because it pays $1,100 on a day when I could be doing Livonia, Michigan, which pays $380. So I'm very happy when I do Northeast Pennsylvania. Now, that said, Northeast Pennsylvania has a tendency to hold drivers because their tank is full frequently, because they use a lot of oil. They get 4 or 5 deliveries a day. I spent 8 hours sitting there waiting a couple times ago that I delivered there. So there are pluses and minuses to going to Northeast Pennsylvania. Now you do, and we've talked about detention. I have a video on detention. You do get compensated for being delayed like that. But at the same time, when you're delayed like that, it hinders your ability to do a load the following day necessarily. So there are, and that's where, like I said, people ask me, could you make more if you're doing over the road? Well, it's a complicated answer. There is no consistency. Even with what I do, it's a little bit more steady because everything's smaller and it's a little bit easier to get something in before payroll on Tuesday because I got something in for payroll this week on Monday and I got something in for payroll on Tuesday. And then I'm starting to think, can I get a second load in on Tuesday before payroll? Which I didn't. This week I delivered something Monday morning, and then I got something that was a very early morning Wednesday delivery at 2 a.m. So I got a second load technically because I left Tuesday night, but it didn't go on last week's payroll. As opposed to you have something that picked up last Friday, am I going to get it in by the following Tuesday? So it's a little more complicated than just saying, yes, I could make more money. Although, like I said, I think you have to look at the big picture. I think people who don't succeed in leasing a truck, and this is all, by the way, geared towards leasing. Pay is the same as far as you get paid when you deliver. So if you're sitting on a load from New Jersey to California and you don't unload until Wednesday as a company driver, all the miles you drove don't count until the following week if you unload after that payroll deadline. But for me, what I always say is you have to look at the big picture. You can't look at week to week. That's why I've done those how much money have I made in a year. This is not a job where you work paycheck to paycheck. First of all, it's not a paycheck, it's a settlement. But if you look at, well, this week I did $3,100 in revenue, as the video in the description says. And next week I only did $2,200 in revenue. And then the following week I did $5,000 in revenue, which, by the way, I have never done $5,000 in revenue. An over-the-road truck driver can do $5,000 in revenue easier than I can. I'll say that. I'm not sure that it's possible to do what I do and do 5,000. I shouldn't say that. If I got to Northeast Pennsylvania every single day for a week straight, I would have over 5,000 in revenue. But that hasn't happened, and there are reasons for that. There is some fairness to how the loads are distributed. They're not going to give everything to one guy. They're not going to give one guy 5 Northeast Pennsylvanias in a week. They try to spread them out. But at any rate, you can't look at it week to week. You have to look at the bigger picture of how much have I made over the last month? How much have I made over the last 6 months? How much have I made over the last year? As opposed to the microcosm of, and that's where I think people get in trouble of, well, this particular trip pays XYZ. And people turn loads down because, well, this trip only Livonia, Michigan, $380. I can look at that and say, well, that doesn't pay a lot of money. Why should I take that load? Well, if there's a load that doesn't pay particularly well, and especially as an over-the-road driver, for what I do, it's like I said, the fairness of, if I got greedy and said I'll only do Northeast Pennsylvania, well, my boss is going to say, well, if that's all you're going to do, we're only going to be able to give that to you once a month. As an over-the-road driver, if you say, well, all I'm going to do is loads that pay incredibly well, we've got freight that has to get moved, and some of it doesn't pay great. Yes, I understand the argument. If you don't haul freight that doesn't pay well, then somebody out there is going to haul it. You can make the argument that it shouldn't be Prime, but Prime has that freight. It's going to get hauled by someone. And if you get the reputation as the guy who doesn't haul freight, that's another video altogether. But there's the comparison between what I do pay-wise, what an over-the-road truck driver does pay-wise. A little bit longer than I wanted to, but gives you an idea. And it's more complicated than just saying, although I still do, the potential is there as an over-the-road driver to make more money. Like I said, the $5,000 week is accomplishable as an over-the-road driver. I'm not sure it is doing what I do, but you also have to look at that possibility that you get a couple of really good runs and then you don't get it in by payroll deadline. If you're going to rely on week to week, that's where you get yourself in trouble. But again, that potential is there, I think, for greater income as an over-the-road guy. Thanks for watching. Again, link in the description to the video on how leasing works. Throw one in there as well. If you want to come to Prime, take you right to the application so you don't have to go searching out for it. Hope you enjoy these videos. If you have any questions, throw them in the video at the bottom as well. I try my best to answer as many of those as I can. I know I miss some of them, and I do apologize. Obviously, busy driving the truck sometimes, and then I don't get back when I get a notification, get somewhere. I'll try to do that'll be a goal sometime, is to do just here's a bunch of questions that I haven't gotten to video. So thanks for watching. Talk to you again next week.